We are going to do some algebra review before we get into 7.5 because the concepts in 7.5 are dealing with a lot more algebra stuff. So make sure that you write down each and every one of these 4 problems in your notes. First one that we're going to review is foiling, or else just distributing one polynomial into the other. So if you're doing it by foiling, if you remember, first, outside, inside, last. But really, we just have to distribute. Both of these two terms have to get multiplied by both of these two terms. So if I'm going to distribute, the 9x has to be multiplied by the 2x. So 9x times 2x, and the 9x also has to be multiplied by the negative 4. So I'm going to put plus 9x times a negative 4. It's negative because of the subtraction right there. And then the 3 also has to get distributed. So it'd be plus 3 times 2x and plus 3 times negative 4. Now, just for the case of reviewing the algebra facts, I wrote down each term multiplied together, but usually I will just be going straight to this next step. So 9x times 2x will give me 18x squared minus 9x times a negative 4 is going to give me a negative 36x. 3 times 2x is going to give me a 6x. And this last term is going to be negative 12. And then I can combine like terms. So here are my 2 like terms there. And my final answer would be 18x squared minus 30x minus 12. Box it in. It's ready to be shipped. Solving for x, and make sure that you are writing this down. We've been talking about the quadratic formula, but I'm not going to use the quadratic formula. I'm going to factor. First thing when you're factoring is make sure that it's equal to 0. So I have to subtract 21 on both sides of my equation. So I'm going to have x squared plus 4x minus 21 is equal to 0. And when I'm factoring, I'm thinking of 2 numbers that multiply to get negative 21 and add together to get 4. So some people are really good at their multiplication facts. Some people aren't. So I know 2 numbers that multiply to get 21 would be 7 and 3. Now because it's a negative 21, one of these numbers has to be negative. Since this is a positive 4, when I add these together, I want to make sure to end up with a positive number. So I'm going to put the negative with the 3. So if I do 7 times a negative 3, that's going to give me a negative 21. If I add those 2 terms together, that's going to give me a positive 4. So then I would write that as x plus 7 and x minus 3. And once you get your 2 terms written out, or 2 polynomials, then you set each one equal to 0 because you had to solve for x. So I'm going to have x plus 7 is equal to 0 and x minus 3 is equal to 0. So x is going to be equal to negative 7 because I have to subtract 7, or x is equal to a positive 3 because I have to add 3. And that would be my final answer. So here you're going to need to solve for x. You can either do the factor method that I just did, or else you can do the quadratic formula. Now, if you are going to be using the factor method, you should talk to me in class because I will show you a simpler way whenever there's a number out in front. Because some people just like to factor better. But in this case, I'm going to use the quadratic formula just to review again. So a is equal to 3 because that's in front of my x squared. B is equal to a negative 8 because it's subtraction. And c is equal to 4. I didn't have to change the equation at all because it's already equal to 0. So my equation is opposite b plus or minus the square root of b, make sure it's in parentheses, squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And then the first thing you want to do is simplify just this number right here underneath the root. So that becomes 8 plus or minus the square root of 16 over 2 times 3 is 6. Well, I know that the square root of 16, that's equal to 4. So now I'm going to set up my 2 separate equations. I have 8 plus 4 divided by 6, and I have 8 minus 4 divided by 6. So 8 plus 4 is going to give me 12, divided by 6 is going to give me 2. 8 minus 4 is going to give me 4. Then divide by 6, that's going to be equal to 2/3. So these are my two answers that I have for x. And then lastly, solving for x when we have a fraction equal fraction and we have polynomials. So I still have to do top times the bottom, top times the bottom. So on the left-hand side, we'll put x plus 4 in parentheses times x minus 1 in parentheses. That's going to be equal to 6 times 8. I'm just going to do 6x. So really it's combining the two things that we just talked about today. So distributing, this becomes an x squared. This becomes a negative x. This becomes a positive 4x. And this becomes a negative 4. And it's still equal to x squared. Or 6x, I mean. I can combine my like terms here. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 4 is equal to 6x. And since I have to solve for x, I have to make sure that this is equal to 0. The equation has to be equal to 0, so I have to move over my 6x. And these two are the like terms, so that's why I put it underneath the 3x. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Right now, I want you to pause the video, yes, pause the video, and solve it from here, either using by factoring, which we talked about, or using the quadratic formula. And you should have gotten that x is equal to 4 or negative 1. I chose to factor it, so two numbers that multiply to get negative 4, but add together to get negative 3 would be my negative 4 and 1. So that's why I wrote out the polynomials x minus 4, x plus 1, and I set both of those equal to 0 and solved, and those are my two answers. Thank you for watching. If you did not write down one of those 4 problems, make sure you go back and do it again, because I will be looking for these 4 problemos. Have a great day.